Hello, I'm Jane Godshalk, and today we're going to do just some fun things with flowers. I live in Pennsylvania. This is the first time I've done a video outside of my basement workshop, but it was such a beautiful day today, and we might get light from the skylights and light from the window, but I just wanted to share with you what's happening outdoors in our Philadelphia area spring. You all live in Virginia. I know that Virginia is quite a bit south of where we live. So if I look in my garden today, I have daffodils and I have lots and lots of hellebores and not any lilacs yet, and things are just beginning to bloom. So lilac should be just starting in your gardens. This hellebore is Black Beauty, and I've had these in my garden quite a few years, so I have tons of them. The first three designs I'm doing for you are all about color, the color purple. This is a monochromatic color design. The vase came from California. I've had it for 4 years and never used it. But today, when I found these purple flowers and purple vase, and I just thought it showed off the color purple in a lovely, voluptuous, monochromatic way. So you've seen my monochromatic purple design in the purple vase. One of my favorite colors to work with purples and lilacs is brown, because it just sort of goes together beautifully. So here I have one of my favorite old rust urns, and in it is a plastic liner filled with a chicken wire pillow. To make the chicken wire pillow, I just take the ends of the chicken wire, I fold them together very casually, fold them in, place them into the plastic liner, and you don't need to use a plastic liner, but I'm using it because this is a metal vase. Then I tape the wire to plastic liner, and it holds water beautifully in my design. So here I have a liner with chicken wire, and I'm going to start with bird's nest fern, putting it in threes. This design is called a phoenix design. The phoenix design is named after the mythological bird, the phoenix. And the phoenix is a bird of many colors, and every 100 years, the phoenix self-ignites, and his ashes rise up into heaven, and then he is reborn with many colors again. So it's a great design to do for any funeral arrangement. It's also pretty easy to do, so it's fun for parties and things like that. So I'm making just a little base of my bird's nest fern, and notice that they're placed in threes. Next comes some green. Working with spring colors, this is Hellebore Orientalis, and it's green. And through the chicken wire goes the stems. It's better not to have too much foliage below the stem. When you're working with chicken wire, the real plus of it is your flowers are in fresh water, and so that they're going to last longer. Also, I don't know about you, but sometimes I go to the garden or the market and I really don't have time to properly condition my flowers. And if you're working with chicken wire, you can just put your stems right into the water and they'll be fine. So this hellebore is already getting its little seed pod, and that means it is the best for lasting the longest time. So I have a base really of all green. Look at the bend of this stem. So bird's nest fern and hellebores are beginning my design. Lilacs are what it's all about. These beautiful purple lilacs. Placing the stems is a little bit more complicated. When working with chicken wire, you want to make sure you don't have any little rough edges. And that means if you don't have rough edges, you can take them out, put them in again, and if you feel like it's too tall, which I did with that, I can take it out, put it in again, and with no edges, it's pretty easy to do. So more little lilacs. Ideally, with lilacs, you like to take off most of the foliage, but these were so fresh and had such fresh greens on them that I decided I would leave the foliage on for you today. So we have a nice interspersing of the purples and the greens. In the Phoenix design, we have to have a circular form and a triangular form. The triangular form for this particular piece is going to be delphinium. Gorgeous, big, tall, strong delphinium. And the delphinium is going to create a V shape. So we have a circular shape and a round shape. So making them in just a nice little triangular form. Here's a trick that I think I learned from the person I do freelance work for, and I think it's a really good trick. Delphinium is beautiful, it's very expensive, and if you mix it with larkspur, you get a little bit more interest to it, and also you fill your space in a less expensive way. So I really like to have the combination of larkspur and delphinium. So we have a nice V shape of larkspur and delphinium. We have a base of purple. I'm seeing that we need a little more purple in here. And I'm going to bring up some purple and some green, a little more lilac. And also, one of my favorite combinations, this beautiful green arching chartreuse viburnum, which you can get pretty much through the summer, but it's definitely a spring flower. So again, trying to keep my triangular, working in threes, a sort of triangular, circular form, but with a soft spring feeling, gardeny feeling. Making sure I don't have chicken, just like floral foam. You want to make sure you don't have any places of your chicken wire showing. So here the color palette right now would be just like the last piece. Well, not quite, because there's quite a bit of green in here, but monochromatic with green. I have mostly green with a little bit of purple. And I think in order to make this work for both the design and the lesson is color contrast. And what do we need? The contrasting color of purple is yellow, but the split complement on the side of yellow is orange. So I'm going to use orange flowers to work with the purple lilac and the purpley delphinium and larkspur. First, this beautiful dark orange tulip, and placing it so that it's arching down a little bit. They're not huge tulips, so I'm going to place them in twos. And you can see already how much life that contrasting color is. snipping them with my little scissors again. I like many varieties of scissors, but Joyce Chen's are sort of my favorites, and they're the ones you get if you take the Longwood Gardens course because they fit most hands. So just trying to think of how can I place this so that it gets a downward movement. Holding it at the end and feeling it into the chicken wire because the chicken wire is getting a little filled, and thinking about how it's going to look from all the different sides. When we work with tulips and flowers in twos, we call this shadowing. So I'm going to put one flower here, and if I put a flower right next to it, it sort of shadows it and gives it more impact, especially in a large design, so that one tulip gives it more power. So looking around and seeing where else do I need tulips, I think if I have any more, which I do, I'll put them right here. So I'm looking for rhythm, going up and down, and I said here and here, and this is where I thought I needed a couple more tulips. I like to cut the tulip above the little node so that I have less stem to place into the design. So now I like the contrast of the tulip color, and I think if we really want to have a party, we're going to add some dancing ranunculus. These are tricky to place, and I'd like to place these as if we really are having a party. So dancing, let them look up, look down. And I got these ranunculus, believe it or not, from our local Trader Joe's. I have access to wholesale flowers, but very often I find just as good flowers at our local Trader Joe's market, and the pricing is good. And so very often I just have, look at this wonderful one just sort of dancing out, really wanting to come to the party. These are butterfly ranunculus, and they are from the flower market. They're almost glossy, and they are truly just flying. And what I like about them for working with chicken wire is their stem is very, very skinny. And so I just can put it in most anywhere. This is my last glorious dancing ranunculus. Where would you like to be? I think I'll put it right in here. Again, holding it at the base and letting it lift up and look like it's at a party. We're having a little war. Thinking about the proportion of colors, I would like my design to be primarily green with, so 60% green or 60% blue, 30% green, and then just this little 10% accent of the orange. And if that's the case, I better stop putting my orange in right now, or the orange is going to overpower my design. So here we have our classical phoenix design. It's a circular base, a triangular top, and any flowers could be put in this. So our phoenix design is a circular base, a triangular top. Any colors, flowers, foliages can go into it for any season, but today we have spring lilacs, tulips, dancing ranunculus, and a combination of delphinium and larkspur at the top. This is a great design for parties, wonderful for church pieces, and so it has an incredible amount of uses, and it's not very difficult to do. So if you have a crew of people and you have to have them making an arrangement for you, this is a good style to give them. My next design is going to be a parallel design, and it's going to be done in sand. I like to work in sand, particularly with spring bulbs and plants and flowers that have sort of straight, stiff stems. It's wonderful with daffodils if you stake your daffodils. Right now we have allium, which are going to be wonderful in the sand. And when I work with sand, especially in front of people, I like to cheat a little bit and use floral foam underneath the sand. But today I'm going to work with something new. So hidden in my sand is a new product, and it's called Agra Wool. And Agra Wool is a sustainable floral foam. And I'm just practicing using it a little bit. It's a little iffy, but once it's finished, you can take it out. It gets all sort of gnarly and yucky looking, but you can take it and put it into your planters and all, and it will help them absorb water. So at first I thought with my parallel design, the standard look is rectangular, and I was going to put it all in a row here for you, but I decided instead, because I have so many beautiful flowers, to put my parallel design with the stems standing straight up, but have them be in a round container. And so I have a container with Agra Wool underneath, and then some sand. How much water do you put into sand? You want to add water, just enough until you see it pooling. Flowers last a very, very long time when they're in sand. You can always, if it starts to pool, just add a little more sand. Use clay box sand, not builder's sand, because it has fewer little stones and things like that. Starting here with this beautiful allium. And how tall do I want my design to be? If I put this in, it's maybe a little too tall. So I'm going to snip the stem at an angle, hold it at the base, and insert it into my vase with in a parallel fashion, making sort of a circle of these. One here, one here. They should be at different heights. So here's one that's going to be a little taller. Trying to keep their stems as parallel as I can get them. This one is going to be a little shorter. Okay, and one's a little shorter still. Making groups of these beautiful allium. My guess is you have some allium in your garden in Virginia right about now. And I'm about to have some, and they're so fun. So they're just sort of standing at attention and getting ready for some sort of happening in their little parallel place. How do you look from here? So a big bundle of stems. To fill in this a little bit, again, the larkspur can fill it in. I'm keeping the stem of it very, very clean. So that it's almost a forest of purple. If I have a choice when placing a parallel stem, you could place it going out. You don't want to. I want the stem to be straight and maybe let the end sort of curve more inward than outward. So just making a forest of allium and larkspur. And this is Italian ruscus, and I'm choosing it because it has a very, again, straight, clean stem. And it's creating a little more depth to my, or darkness, contrast in my forest of allium and larkspur. So you almost can picture like a little creature walking through this. The Philadelphia Flower Show this year is outdoors, and the class for some exhibitors is mythological creatures, and my family, my daughter, granddaughter, and their whole family is working on, we're doing a mythological thunderbird and creating a nest, but trying to think of a place that, see how this one isn't going to be straight, so you don't get to go to the party. So we have to create a mythological setting, and I'm looking at this and thinking, this could be a really fun little mythological forest, so just making a little place to go, letting some of these have some lower leaves, but not too many, trimming off the sides. I'm going to add now a flower of contrast. Purple and yellow are contrasting colors, so just an accent with this fabulous Japanese, not from the garden, Gloriosa rothschildiana. It has a straight stem, just like we need for my design, but comes out with these amazing, amazing curves. And letting these just flip out and be wonderful. This one's gorgeous, but too curvy to come to our forest, so it has to stay there for the moment. And the one thing about gloriosas is they like to twine on one another, so you have to carefully remove them. And if you grow gloriosa in your garden, which some of you may do because they're perfect for your climate, you'll find that again you have to peel them off. This has good stem, a little bit crooked, but I'm going to wrap this one around here so that it's circling our allium, and we're getting the gloriosas to be all through the design. When I look at this, I see that although I hate to take this off, this is making it too circular and too symmetrical. So I'd like them to be some up and some down, and I'm going to take off this one. And so you have a slightly asymmetrical spray of the gloriosas. I think we have about way too much purple, and so I'm going to add just a couple of very, very bright sunlight spider gerbera. And they're just going to go in here, again, shadowing so that one is on top of the next. Very, very straight. I have two here, and so I think I'll slide one way up and sort of try to tuck it in deep of here, and maybe one more. No, I think that's plenty. So as you turn our design, you have primarily purple, an accent of yellow, and I think we need just one more thing for this. And I'd like to, everything is very stiff, very parallel, and I'm going to give it some contrast with this plumosus, which seems to want, just like the gloriosas, wants to be all together. But I think this is two pieces, yes. So I'm going to put one piece in here and just let it twine around. And let's take one more piece and And I love that this has this beautiful hanging piece, but I'm going to trim it some. This Gloriosa needs to be tied in. And trimming this needs to have its lower stems trimmed off. So that we still have our base very clean, and we can have our top be feathery. And I'm going to take off quite a few of these so that the fern is more stem than it is little foliage pieces. So here we have your parallel design, primarily purple with the accent of the yellow, and then just a little twiny line of plumosus. We use parallel design to get a clean, sort of modern and yet sometimes gardeny feel to an arrangement, and it's always important to see the straight stems. This is a fun new technique I've been doing, and I particularly like it because you get to see the flowers in fresh water. And it involves taking a piece of 12 gauge wire and a piece of Midolino and wrapping them with florist tape. And this enables you to make a grid. As the pieces get longer, it's harder to do. I have them in, I use them in white, in brown, all different colors, and they create, and you just keep wrapping and keep wrapping and keep wrapping. And after you finish your taped forms, which I like to use below the water line, you can then take some forms and wrap them with wool. So I like to keep those above the water line. Watch what happens when water goes into the vase. This collection of little spiral wires took, I can't even tell you how long it took, a lot of TV movies to do this. And what this will allow for is a really fun design that's windy and natural. Something really good for it is a vine. You probably in your gardens now have clematis, or will be getting clematis, ivy, and this is jasmine vine. I'm going to place it in here and sort of work it through the ends. And again, the flowers are in fresh water, so they're happy. Starting the design, you have to choose where do you want your focal point or your focal area to begin. I could do it right in the middle, but I think with this piece, we have a heavier part on one side and a lighter part on the other. So the point of emergence or binding point is going to be about 1/3 through the vase. And look at how nicely this little vine can support the jasmine. So we're starting with the vine, and longer piece here, shorter piece here. Placing the beginning pieces in here, looking for the width. I want it to be slightly tapered, but it has to be about the same size from one side to the next. So this looks pretty good just the way it is. I don't think we need too many flowers, but I've been saving for you Yves Piaget rose. Smells divine. How tall do I want it to be? This will be the focal flower, or my focal area flower. And probably placing one just here on the side. This is the powerful place right at our sort of point of emergence. And on the other side, we will place another rose, slightly taller, and so that you get a look of sort of interplay or shadowing from the beautiful roses. The next flower we have for here is these beautiful Clooney Ranunculus. Letting them sort of curve and line. And their stems almost look like the curving wires, which is what makes this such a fun design. As I look through my ranunculus, I'm particularly looking for them that have a little curve to their stem. And notice that I'm trying to have all of the stems come from one single binding point or point of emergence. Unlike the parallel design where things go in straight, everything has to be sort of connected to make the design feel like it's cohesive. So I have 3 little ranunculus over here, and I'm going to let a couple of them be over here. This vine wants to be bad and get out of there, but it has to go into its place. So we have ranunculus and some roses, maybe a few little hellebores. I could use the purple, but that makes the dark too dark. Here's one that's actually, this must be Burgundy Prince, that's just getting to be a little bit mottled with burgundy and green, and I think it's a really good choice. Just going to put a couple of these in here, making them very short, not so tall. The length is the vine, and the length is the stars are the roses and the ranunculus. Just a couple of, these are scabiosa, and they're scabiosa pods, and they come with straw at the top, which sometimes is very hard to get off. But I sort of like their stems to be a little bit droopy, so I'm going to let my scabiosa not have its straitjacket, but let it be a little bit more graceful. You can get out of here, I know you can. Letting the pods come here, and looking around. And one more pod coming out here. Again, all the stems are beginning here, coming out, and making just a little bouquet of wire and spring flowers. So I use this technique when I want to show off flowers, just a few flowers, and really let the flowers be the stars. The twininess of the vines and just a very few simple colors and textures. Enjoy this technique just for a few very special flowers. This design is purely just for fun. It's easy, it's fun, takes a little time for some of the techniques, but I think it gives you a chance to personalize a little gift design. These are the pillows by Syndicate Sales, and you put them together, and they're great for making flower arrangements, but also you can take them, cover them with wool just by wrapping, and get a nice form for working with a vase that's even a little bit smaller than the form. When I do this, I like to put my fingers in to make sure they're big enough holes to get my flowers in. It's fun sometimes to take a little pole or yarn to give it a little bit of horizontal interest. And then here's the fun part, working with paper. So how to personalize a design just for someone special. This design is made for someone who loves to grow plants. And this gorgeous paper has ferns on it. This little paper has purple and little gold flowers. Would be wonderful to show with lilacs for someone who loves lilacs. I did this little piece at Valentine's Day with pinks and all sorts of Valentine's romantic colors. So I've done my pillow with wool. I'm going to take the paper, cover it with U-glue dashes. Sometimes they don't stick too easily, but I've finally gotten them on here. And let a piece of wire, this is 12 gauge aluminum wire. You can use any wire in any color. Fold your paper over, pull your wires down, and just make your flower, your paper, into almost a foliage or flower form. The wires then go into your design, just as if it were a leaf. And it gives the really fun, personalized feeling. So this person likes plants. So think about for a baby shower. You could have little pink or girl, you could have animals, you can have all sorts of things just for your personalizing the floral design. And then add some flowers. This is variegated pittosporum called Pitta Negra, and I like it because it's got a very thin stem and also it has a beautiful variegated color. It goes nicely with the paper. In my garden for you, green hellebores, which is the straight Hellebore Orientalis. And you can worry about covering the form or not covering the form. If you're working at holiday time, like it's fun to sort of glue little pine cones or things like that, but this isn't holiday time, so I'm just using lots and lots of flowers. A good flower for this is carnations, because I can make a little sort of pillow form in my pink. The color palette of this is going to be pink and green. So complementary colors, because pink is a tint of red and green is opposite red on the color wheel. I'm working the stems in through both layers, getting some depth, so getting a little pillow form of my carnations. Beautiful arching viburnum. Working, sometimes it's hard to get, you have to sort of work the stems in through both layers of the wool. One more viburnum here. A few spray roses in sort of a peachy color. And choosing all, you want to choose all your stems have to be thin. You can't make it too thick. Some dancing ranunculus. And you can't put a stem through a stick. So let me get my ranunculus in. I've got to hold it really deep at the end of the stem and find its spot. And sometimes at the end it gets harder and harder to find spots, but we can do it. This is a really fun addition. It's a little Clematis Pod, and you may have these at your garden in the fall, but I think it's so pretty in here. Gives it a little bit of spirit. And here we have our gift. It's got paper for the person who loves the ferns, pink flowers. I'll put one more rose in here. And perfect little gift for someone who likes flowers. So this is a piece you can use for many, many different purposes. Choose your paper that you think the person would like. You can have lemon paper, you can have animal paper, and then just add a few little flowers that go with your little gift package. So thank you for having me here today with you. It was fun to be in Virginia, if only for a few hours. I hope you enjoyed being in my little garden, and I very much enjoyed sharing some of our spring flowers with you.